They'll pay you $20,000 to move to these 10 U.S. towns. Here's the catch, so you're telling me I can get paid $10, $15, even $20,000 just to move to a new city and keep doing the exact same remote job I'm already doing? Yep, that's real. And no, this isn't some crypto scam or multi-level marketing thing. These are actual cities and states run by actual governments who looked at their population numbers, panicked, and decided the best solution was to literally pay people to move there. Tulsa, Oklahoma will hand you 10 grand. West Virginia will give you 12,000 over 2 years. Rochester, New York goes up to 19,000 if you buy a house. And before you start thinking this sounds too good to be true, you're right, sort of. Because here's the thing. These programs exist for a reason. And that reason usually isn't our city is so amazing that we just want to share the wealth. It's more like our young people keep leaving for Denver and we desperately need someone, anyone, with a college degree and disposable income to move here before our tax base completely collapses. But you know what? That doesn't mean these programs are bad. It just means you should know what you're actually signing up for. Let's talk about why this is happening. Because the story is actually kind of fascinating in a depressing economic way. The pandemic broke open remote work in a way that nobody expected. Suddenly, millions of people who were tethered to expensive cities realized they didn't have to be. If you could work from anywhere, why pay $3,500 a month for a one-bedroom in San Francisco when you could pay $1,200 in Tulsa? And on the flip side, a bunch of mid-sized cities that had been hemorrhaging population for decades saw an opportunity. They'd spent years watching their best and brightest move to the coasts. Brain drain, capital flight, shrinking tax bases, schools closing, downtowns emptying out. But now they could compete. Not by creating better jobs, which takes decades and billions in infrastructure investment, but by offering cash, cold hard American dollars to people who already had good jobs and just needed a reason to relocate. Tulsa was one of the first. In 2018, they launched Tulsa Remote with a $10,000 grant for remote workers. People thought it was a gimmick, but it worked. Like actually worked. Over 4,000 people have moved to Tulsa through the program. 70% of them are still there. The program has generated an estimated $878 million in economic impact. $878 million. From paying people 10 grand each to move there. That's not a gimmick. That's a legitimate economic development strategy. So other cities jumped in. Rochester, Topeka, Hamilton, Northwest Arkansas, West Virginia. By 2026, there are over 65 active relocation programs across the United States offering anywhere from $5,000 to over $20,000 in incentives. And the thing is, for a lot of people, this is a genuinely good deal. Lower cost of living, actual community, a chance to buy a house instead of renting forever. But it's not for everyone, and the fine print matters. Let me walk you through 10 programs that are actually active right now, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you're getting into. Number 10, Indiana communities. Various cities, Indiana is taking a scattered approach to this whole thing. Multiple cities across the state, places like Bloomington, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis suburbs, are offering $5,000 in relocation incentives plus perks like co-working memberships and fitness passes. $5 grand isn't going to change your life, but Indiana's cost of living is legit low. You can buy a decent house in a lot of these towns for under $200,000. Rent for a 2-bedroom is like $1,100 a month in many places. The catch is Indiana is Indiana. If you're from a coastal city and you've never spent time in the Midwest, the culture shock is real. Winters are cold and gray. The social scene is going to be different. You're trading walkability and public transit for cars and strip malls. But if you're from the Midwest already, or you just want space and affordability, Indiana's programs are a solid entry point. The application process is straightforward, and they're genuinely trying to build communities rather than just hand out checks. Number 9, Hamilton, Ohio. Student loan repayment. Hamilton takes a different angle. Instead of giving you cash, they'll pay up to $10,000 toward your student loans if you move there and work remotely. For someone carrying education debt, this might actually be better than a cash payment. It's going straight to your loans, which you were going to have to pay anyway. And Hamilton is positioning itself as an affordable alternative to Cincinnati, which is about 30 minutes south. The city has been working hard on downtown revitalization. New restaurants, entertainment venues, some decent coffee shops. It's not going to blow your mind, but it's functional and cheap. The downside is Hamilton is still a small Rust Belt city with all the typical challenges. The job market outside of remote work isn't great. The city's been losing population for decades. You're betting on a turnaround that might not happen. But if you have student loans and you work remote anyway, 10 grand in debt relief while living somewhere with sub-$1,000 rent is worth considering. Number 8. Topeka, Kansas. Choose Topeka. Topeka's Choose Topeka program used to be the crown jewel of remote worker incentives, offering up to $15,000. But here's the catch that a lot of articles don't mention. The program has mostly pivoted away from pure remote workers back to people taking jobs with local employers. If you can land a job with one of their participating companies, the incentive is still available and it's generous. But the pandemic-era window where anyone with a laptop could apply is basically closed. That said, Topeka is genuinely affordable. Someone in the program bought a 3-bedroom house for $47,000. $47,000. That's used car money in California. And the city's cost of living is about 10% below the national average. Topeka is the capital of Kansas, so it's got some infrastructure and culture you won't find in truly rural areas. The Brown v. Board of Education historic site is there. Decent breweries. It's not a ghost town, but it's also Topeka. It's flat. It's very Midwest. And unless you have strong ties to the region or you're just desperate to own a house, it's a tough sell for people coming from major metros. Number 7. Rochester, New York. Up to $19,000, Rochester is one of the more generous programs still actively taking remote workers. Up to $10,000 in relocation reimbursement plus up to $9,000 in homebuyer incentives for a total of $19 grand. Rochester's pitch is that it's a real city with actual amenities, but without the crushing cost of living you find in New York City or Boston. And they're not wrong. Rochester has about 200,000 people. It's got universities, healthcare systems, cultural institutions. Wegmans, if you know, you know. Cost of living is legitimately low for a city with that much infrastructure. Median home prices are around $130,000. That's real urban living for less than you pay for a condo in most major metros. The catch is Rochester winters. Like legitimate upstate New York winters. Gray skies from November to April. Lake effect snow. If seasonal affective disorder is a thing for you, Rochester is going to test you. But if you can handle the weather and you want city amenities at small town prices, Rochester is probably the best value proposition on this entire list. Number 6. Northwest Arkansas. $10,000 plus a mountain bike. Northwest Arkansas, which includes places like Bentonville and Fayetteville, offers $10,000 plus a free mountain bike valued at around $750. The bike thing sounds gimmicky until you realize Northwest Arkansas has become a legitimate mountain biking destination. Walmart's headquarters is in Bentonville, and the Walton family has poured hundreds of millions into trail systems and outdoor recreation infrastructure. The region has some genuinely world-class mountain biking. The area is growing fast. Population's been climbing. New restaurants, breweries, cultural stuff. Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art is there, which is shockingly good for being in the middle of Arkansas. Cost of living is still relatively low, though it's creeping up as more people discover the area. You can find decent housing in the $200,000 to $300,000 range. The catch is it's Arkansas. Culturally and politically, it's the South. If you're coming from Portland or Brooklyn, the adjustment is going to be significant. But if you like outdoor recreation and you don't mind living somewhere that feels more culturally conservative, Northwest Arkansas is legitimately nice. Number 5. West Virginia, Ascend WV. West Virginia's Ascend program offers $12,000 over 2 years. $10,000 in year one paid out monthly, plus another $2,000 if you stay for the full second year. And you get outdoor recreation perks like free park passes. West Virginia is selling itself on natural beauty. The state is genuinely gorgeous if you like mountains and forests. and the cost of living is dirt cheap. You can rent a nice place for under $1,000 a month in most participating towns. The program operates in a few different regions. Morgantown and Lewisburg are the main hubs. Morgantown's a college town with West Virginia University, so it's got some energy and infrastructure. Lewisburg is smaller and more rural, but has been working on attracting remote workers and artists. The obvious catch is West Virginia's economy. The state's been struggling for decades. Job market is weak. A lot of the participating towns are former coal country trying to reinvent themselves. You're going there specifically for the cheap living and natural beauty, not because there's a thriving local economy. But if you're an outdoorsy remote worker who wants to kayak and hike every weekend and doesn't need urban amenities, Ascend WV is a solid program. Number 4. Stillwater, Oklahoma. Down payment assistance. Stillwater takes a different approach by offering $5,000 specifically for down payment assistance, which is over 3% down on a median-priced home there. Stillwater is a college town. Oklahoma State University is there, which gives it some life and infrastructure you won't find in purely rural towns. Cost of living is low. Housing is cheap. The program is specifically designed to help you become a homeowner, which is smart if that's your goal. $5,000 toward a down payment in a market where houses cost $150,000 to $200,000 can actually get you into a house. The trade-off is you're living in Stillwater, Oklahoma. It's a college town, which means it's fun when school's in session and kind of dead when it's not. And it's Oklahoma. Hot summers. Tornado season is real. Cultural amenities are limited. But if home ownership is your priority and you work remote, Stillwater's program is one of the more practical ones. Number 3. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa Remote. Tulsa Remote is the OG. The program that started this whole movement back in 2018. $10,000 paid out over the first year. $2,500 up front for relocation. $500 a month for 10 months. $1,500 at the end if you complete the full year. What makes Tulsa Remote special isn't just the money. It's the community infrastructure they've built. Monthly events, professional networking, co-working spaces. They've actually created a real community of remote workers rather than just cutting checks and hoping people stick around. The retention rate proves it. 70% of Tulsa Remote participants are still living in Tulsa after the program ends. That's way higher than most of these programs. People are actually staying. Tulsa's cost of living is about 8% below the national average. You can find decent apartments for $1,000 to $1,200 a month. Buying a house is very doable on a remote worker's salary. The catch is Tulsa's crime rate is higher than the national average. Not every neighborhood is created equal. You need to do your research on where you're actually going to live, in Oklahoma's state level. Politics and rankings on things like healthcare and education are near the bottom nationally. But if you're insulated from local job market issues because you work remotely, and you want to be part of an actual community of people who made the same move you did, Tulsa Remote is probably the best overall program. Number 2. Various Kansas towns. Multiple programs. Kansas has gone all in on this strategy. Multiple towns across the state are offering incentives, ranging from $5,000 to $15,000. Places like Lincoln County, Hutchinson, Ottawa, Salina. Some offer cash. Some offer property tax benefits. Some throw in bizarre perks like 5 pounds of locally raised bison, which I'm not making up. Kansas is extremely affordable. Fiber internet is surprisingly widespread even in rural areas. The state's been working hard to make itself remote work friendly. The catch is you're living in Kansas, which, look, Kansas is fine, but it's flat, really flat. And unless you're from the Great Plains, the landscape is going to feel monotonous. Winters are cold, summers are hot, and tornado season is a real consideration. But if affordability is your number one priority and you genuinely don't care about mountains, or oceans, or big city amenities, Kansas programs are worth looking at. Number 1. MakeMyMove Platform. Access to 65 programs. I'm putting MakeMyMove at number 1 not because it's a single program, but because it's a marketplace that aggregates over 65 different relocation programs across the country. You create a profile, browse programs, and apply through the platform. It's basically making it easier to shop around and find the program that actually fits your situation. What's useful about MakeMyMove is they track data across all these programs. About 10% of movers are coming from California. People are moving from Texas, Florida, Illinois. A lot of folks feel priced out of their home states and are looking for places where they can actually buy a house and start a family. The incentives range from $5,000 to over $25,000 depending on the program. Some focus on cash, some on student loan repayment, some on down payment assistance. The catch with any of these programs is the same. The money is nice, but it's not why you should move. 5 or 10 grand sounds like a lot, but it's not life-changing money. It'll cover your moving truck and maybe a few months of the cost difference between your old rent and your new rent. What actually determines whether these moves work out is whether you can build a life in the new place. Do you connect with people? Do you find things to do? Does the place feel like home after the novelty wears off? The programs that succeed at retention are the ones that invest in community building, not just check cutting. So what's really happening here beneath all the marketing and the cash incentives? These programs are a symptom of massive geographic inequality in the United States. Wealth, jobs, and young educated people have been concentrating in a handful of expensive coastal cities for decades. Meanwhile, huge swaths of the country have been hollowing out. Remote work created a brief window where that might actually reverse. If you can work from anywhere, why not live somewhere affordable? But the return to office trend is closing that window fast. A lot of these programs that exploded during the pandemic are now scaling back, or pivoting to focus on people taking local jobs instead of pure remote workers. That said, the programs that remain are getting smarter. They're focusing more on community integration and retention instead of just volume. They're tracking what actually keeps people around versus what gets them to show up and leave after a year. And honestly, for the right person, these programs are a legitimate opportunity. If you're stuck renting in an expensive city with no path to homeownership, moving to Tulsa or Rochester or Northwest Arkansas with a $10,000 head start makes financial sense. Here's what you need to actually think about before you apply to any of these programs. First, read the fine print. Every program has different requirements. Some require you to stay for 1 year, some for 2. Some have clawback provisions where you have to pay the money back if you leave early. Some require you to work full-time remotely. Some have income minimums. The application process varies wildly. Second, the money is taxable income. That $10,000 grant, you're paying federal and state taxes on it. Depending on your bracket, that might be 20 to 30%. So your actual take-home is more like $7,000 to $8,000. Still nice, but not quite as generous as the headline number. Third, actually visit the place before you commit. These cities are betting you won't. They're hoping the money is enough to get you to move sight unseen. Don't do that. Spend a long weekend there. Walk around different neighborhoods. Eat at local restaurants. See if you can actually imagine living there. Fourth, think about the non-financial stuff. Are you okay being far from family? Are you good at making new friends as an adult? Do you need specific amenities or cultural scene that only exists in bigger cities? The money doesn't matter if you're miserable. Fifth, have a backup plan. What happens if your remote job goes away? What happens if return to office mandates come down? If you can't find another remote position, what's the local job market like? Don't trap yourself somewhere with no exit options. The relocation incentive trend is one of the weirder outcomes of the pandemic era. Cities paying people to move there used to be a joke. Now it's a legitimate economic strategy with real results. But it's not free money. It's a trade. You're trading access to big city amenities, proximity to family and friends, and cultural familiarity for lower cost of living, potential home ownership, and a check that'll cover your moving expenses. For some people, that trade is absolutely worth it. For others, no amount of money is going to make living in Topeka feel like home. The programs themselves aren't a scam. They're real. The money is real. The cities genuinely want you there because they need your tax dollars and your economic activity to survive. But you need to go into this with eyes open. These places are offering incentives because they're struggling to attract people organically. That doesn't mean they're bad places to live. It just means they're not where most people would choose to go without a push. So here's my question for you. If you could get $10,000 or $15,000 to move to a mid-sized city in the middle of the country, would you do it? Or is there a minimum quality of life threshold that no amount of relocation money could get you to cross? Let me know in the comments, and if you're seriously considering applying to one of these programs. Good luck, do your research, visit first, and make sure you're moving for the right reasons, not just to check. Subscribe if you want more brutally honest takes on housing markets and economic trends that actually affect normal people. I'll see you in the next one.